Hello and welcome to Wi-Fi Optional, the weekly tech show where we talk tech so you don't have to. This is episode 29, recorded Monday, July 18th, 2016. And with me, as always, is Mr. Jason Wadicott. I'm Rukshan Gujarat. Now, how are you, Mr. Wadicott?
I'm good, sir. How are you? I'm just trying to catch them all.
Yeah, just trying to catch them all, just like everybody else. There's so many accidents and so many things that have been reported. It's just crazy. Who knew, right?
Yeah, who knew? Otherwise, they would have invested stock into Niantic or so.
Yeah, they're coming out with they're reviving the Nintendo NES. It's coming out at $59.99. It's going to be a smaller package, and I
Yep,
think they're going to add about 30 games. Yeah, about 30 classic games, I think. Yeah,
yep.
so yeah,
Everything's
but
going retro.
yep, you got to strike when the iron's hot, right?
Exactly.
All right, we got a bunch of good stories, including how a lot of people spent a lot of money in a very short time. Talk about that in our main article. But to get things rolling,
All right, leading off picking the news, hackers snagged 2 million from ATMs without using a credit card. In a story from Gizmodo, Taiwanese hackers tricked ATMs into unloading piles of cash, more than $2 million to be exact, without using a credit card. Instead of using stolen cards like most ATM thieves, these masked robbers used computer program and walked away with piles of cash in their backpack. The hackers attacked 30 ATMs belonging to the Taiwanese First Commercial Bank. Authorities still aren't sure exactly how they pulled it off. They know some malicious code was deployed into the ATMs, but they aren't sure of how the code was able to bypass the ATM's stringent security setup. The two hackers were reportedly able to complete their heist in less than 10 minutes. The malicious code on the ATMs first had it dump cash and then clean up the evidence that the code was ever existed on the machines. According to the Taiwanese police, it appears that the money making code was deployed by some kind of device, potentially a smartphone. The German manufacturer of the ATM said it had dispatched investigators to Taiwan to find out exactly what happened. Quote is saying it's still not clear how the suspects stole such a large amount of money from the ATMs. Unquote, the Taiwanese officials told the agency, is it France Presse? How do you pronounce that?
I believe
Presse?
so. Yeah, yeah.
My understanding is that the first time such criminal method has been discovered here. The Taiwanese bank has shut down multiple ATMs since the attack, presumably so hackers do not shake down machines for millions in just a few minutes all over again. So, very interesting story. I know we talked about this briefly. I can't remember if it was our new run or our old run of the show when they talked about discontinuing Windows XP and how the biggest contingency of machines that had Windows XP still were ATMs, and maybe this was the first iteration of people using that to their advantage.
Yeah, the interesting part to me in this whole thing is how did they get the code in? Even if it was Windows XP, I mean, unless that ATM was still running some kind of an outdated we don't know. Maybe it was running an outdated operating system, but maybe did it have something like near field communication, like NFC or some form of
Bluetooth or
wireless
something. That's what I was
Bluetooth
thinking as
technology
well.
where they would have the malicious code and they would just walk up to it and wirelessly transmit it. I mean, you would have to get this malicious code into the ATM somehow. But it's funny how they would just walk up, dump the code in, the ATM would spit the money out, it would go in and say, "Yep, all the money's gone. Let me go clean out the code." So it's even wiping out it's wiping out the footprint. So it's pretty advanced. They're getting smart.
Yeah, and it seems like I read a report somewhere that a lot of ATMs from like the big banks, Chase and U.S. Bank and things, are going to start putting near field communication and Apple Pay and Google or Android Pay or whatever all into their ATMs soon enough. So I don't know if maybe that's something that does exist already and it's kind of left open. They found a back door with it or what, but it'll be interesting to see what this story brings when they actually get the results of how they pulled this off. So.
Yeah, I know. When I was traveling internationally not too long ago, the sheer technology that they have deployed out there far supersedes what we have here. So who knows? Maybe one of these ATMs were state of the art on the front end with NFC or Bluetooth. But we'll find out. Like you said, we'll keep our eyes open, and it's definitely interesting to know how they did it. Next story, Toyota to invest $1 billion dollars in self-driving technologies and AI. Toyota will reportedly invest $1 billion dollars over the next 5 years in self-driving technologies, artificial intelligence, and technology that will help improve vehicle safety. According to NBC, Toyota aims to improve vehicle safety by enabling vehicles to identify, predict, and avoid potential accident situations. The company is also planning to bring out a self-driving car by 2020, by the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. Gil Pratt, CEO of recently set up Toyota Research Institute, or TRI, said some of the things that are in car safety, which is a near-term priority. I'm very confident that we will have some advances come out during the next 5 years. End quote. The current driver assistance system mainly use image sensors to avoid obstacles within the car's lane. But Pratt said TRI was looking at artificial intelligence to enable the car to be evasive beyond the one lane. According to NBC, the autonomous vehicle, which it calls the Guardian Angel, will drive alongside the human driver and will be capable of taking control if it senses potential danger. Apart from Toyota, automakers such as Ford, Jaguar, Land Rover, Nissan, Mercedes-Benz, Volvo, Tesla, and others are also working on self-driving technology. The self-driving car is not something new. We've covered it over and over in just about every episode we've had. But what's interesting is that they're actually going to use artificial intelligence. So far, just like the article says, it uses a series of sensors, and it's a predefined program. And those sensors are designed to say, if this condition happens, do this. If the gap between the vehicle in front is less than X, start braking. So all of the conditions that it uses so far for self-driving is predetermined, and this is how you drive. And it also takes into consideration that everything around you is somewhat perfect or somewhat predictable. So adding artificial intelligence.
Yeah, and marked as well. The biggest thing that I've heard with this stuff is that you need proper road marking. So if something's worn away or there's snow cover, the cars are kind of SOL at that point in time. And I was just searching for it. I can't find the article, but I was reading another article this week that there's a company that's working on more of a I can't what they actually described it as, but basically a learning method where it will take into account things around it. It almost has more sensors than just looking at the road to kind of figure out where it is on a road instead of using these markers, because that's the biggest hurdle right now. Both of us live in Minnesota. If we had an autonomous car, that means from November till May, we couldn't drive the thing because there'd be too much ice and snow and things in the road to really cause trouble. So I think it's good that all these companies are kind of getting in the game, because things like this will get advanced a lot quicker, and hopefully won't see troubles like we've seen with Tesla in the recent times. So
yeah, and I think this might be the component that's actually been missing, where that seems like they have a fairly robust self-driving program. They've logged millions of miles with one accident, maybe two or three that happened, but all those accidents happened because of some kind of unforeseen circumstance that happened. Somebody cut them off, the tractor that all of a sudden made a left turn in front of them. So situations where artificial intelligence could have made some kind of a smarter decision, so to speak, like, for example, if a human was behind the wheel. But it's definitely interesting to see what they're going to come out with, or how this is going to pair. Maybe this is going to be the yin and yang, and then this is what's going to be the best format. But
we'll have to see. A third article is an interesting one. Facebook lets Messenger conversations go dark. So an article from Tech News World. Facebook last week said it would begin testing long-anticipated end-to-end encryption capabilities on its Messenger app, enabling users to have secret conversations. The new level of security means that the Messenger will provide visibility only to the sender and the recipient. Facebook won't ever be able to read any of the information. Users set a timer to limit the amount of time that the messages remains visible during conversation. Facebook has employed Open Whisper Systems Signal Protocol technology to provide this encryption. One major caveat caveat to the end-to-end encryption: conversations cannot be viewed on multiple mobile systems at the same time. However, the encryption is optional feature. Many of the users want to be able to switch devices during the conversation. For example, move from a mobile phone to a tablet to a desktop computer. With the current technology, secret conversations can be read only on the one device you start on. In addition, reading rich content like GIFs or videos and making payments will not be possible using the encryption. Further, it is likely that an update to end-to-end encryption will allow the support of multi-device use, which is said to allow millions of Facebook users to who currently operate it. On hundreds of millions of Messenger users talk web to web. Who is I can't remember his name was. He's one of the technology
Yeah,
advisors
he is. Oh, yeah.
for, we didn't have it in the article for Facebook, but there's currently no secure way to store code and verify keys with using mobile technology. Basically, what it comes down to is, back, let's say even 2 years ago, you had things, Whisper Systems was, I can't remember if they're the one behind the black phone. I remember that back in CS like 2 years ago, but there's
Yeah,
lots
it
of
was.
apps that
Yep.
came out ever since that have used end-to-end encryption, and this is kind of the first, mainstream. We've seen things from whispers from Snapchat and what's the one out of
WhatsApp.
help me, Rock. Yes, thank you. WhatsApp. To do end-to-end encryption, but this is the first real mainstream. You could do this with grandma kind of thing. That's really come to play. So it's really interesting to see them do this, and the caveats they put out there are kind of obvious for first go around, but eventually it'd be interesting to see um, how many other systems just bake this in. And I think we called this like 6 months ago about companies kind of doing this so they could wash their hands of police officers and government agencies digging their hands into getting records and things like that. Say, hey, we just can't do it, so you can't even ask us. So I think this is kind of the first wave of the mainstream side of things.
Yeah, it certainly is going to, like you said, certainly is going to change the playing field when it comes to law enforcement and warrants and the whole legal system behind it. One of the things I kind of have, I don't know how I think about it. I kind of have mixed feelings about this. I like it from the fact that it is private, and there's less eyes that can get into it. But at the same time, I can also see it from a law enforcement perspective, where if in a situation where getting this information might be extremely helpful for national security or life or death situation, well they can't. But at the same time, you kind of make the bed you lay in. It's like we had this, they maybe abused it, overused it, and then now companies are going to go, you know what, enough is enough. We're gonna do it so that nobody can read it. So it's a curse and a blessing, I guess, at the same time. But it's fascinating that they can actually do that, and they've had it, and now there's the drive to do it. There's the motive to do it. So I'm interested to check it out. This kind of follows kind of like the original Snapchat, where you set a timer, you have X, you've
Yeah, I
set
think
about
it's
3
it's like
weeks or
5 seconds to 24 hours or
yeah,
something like
something
that,
like
I
that,
believe
right?
is the timeline.
Yeah, so
Usually, the only thing I'd love to say with that is, if you're usually trying to hide something, it's because there's a reason you're trying to hide it.
right,
So,
right, exactly. Cause and effect. The next article is a Pokemon Go. Well, actually, the article's titled "Pokemon Go Down." Hacking group claims responsibility for taking down servers with DDoS attack. A hacking group claimed responsibility for taking down Pokemon Go servers using a DDoS or distributed denial of service attack. Cyber collective known as Poodle Corp announced on Twitter it was behind the
dang
action.
it, they took my name.
Yeah, dang it. You should have registered the .com, but this claim is yet to be verified. The account also retweeted a post by a user claiming to be the leader of Poodle Corp. Quote, Pokemon Go, hashtag offline, hashtag Poodle Corp, end quote. Also, they said, quote, this was a little test. We'll do something on a larger scale soon, end quote. Said a post by a user that goes by the handle EXO. Poodle Corp has recently targeted high-profile YouTubers such as PewDiePie, according to Gear Nuke. A DDoS or distributed denial of service attack is a way to troublemakers crash servers by flooding them flooding them with so many requests every second that they cannot cope. On Saturday, users across the U.S. and Europe complained they were unable to access the game or that it was freezing. When news spread of the attack, players took to social media to voice their outrage. The incident is one of many international news stories relating to the game since its launch earlier in July. A man crashed his car into a tree in New York on Friday, later admitting to police he had been distracted by the game. So there's to me at least, a DDoS attack is such a catch-22. You can't complete. You can put all kinds of fail safes for hacking. I mean, you can block ports, you can do this, you can do that, you can block IPs. But a DDoS attack is kind of, it hits you right at the core, and if you shut down the mechanisms to eliminate a DDoS attack, you can't actually survive. So it's
Yeah, correct
all
me
I
if I'm.
can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, the only way to really circumvent a DDoS attack if you have kind of like a fail-safe, different IP, you know what I mean? Basically, a different
Yeah,
way
you'll
where
have to
everything
switch your
can,
IPs. Right.
yeah, basically roll over.
But that even then, that's going to be, to a certain degree temporary until they figure out what the new IPs are going to be, and then they're going to start another DDoS attack. It's the way I see it. It's almost like, how big do you want your entrance to your store to be? If you make it too small, and narrow the scope of the DDoS attack, and then only so many people can walk into your store at any given time, and then there's going to be a big backlog. You make the door so big so all the people can come in. Well, they're all going to come in and jam the door, and it's a huge security risk. So it's kind of a lose-lose situation to a certain degree, but it's certainly interesting. I think we talked about it at the beginning of the show, where how Pokemon Go is just taken off, and it's just going out there like gangbusters. Everybody's out there. It's been downloaded 17 million plus times since its release, and everybody's excited. Everybody wants to play it. At the same time, it's a high value target to a lot of hackers that want to promote their propaganda, that want to get out there and make a name for themselves, like their 15 minutes of fame, or however you want to call it. But the only thing I can predict is it's not over. It's only going to get worse. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see how Niantic is going to handle this. What they're going to do to maybe circumvent or whatever it is. Maybe they'll have to get more server farms. Just regionalize it more, and then that way, yes, if you have a DDoS attack, it's only going to affect a certain server farm in the northeast U.S. and not the rest of it. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. We'll see what they do.
And I'm guessing that they also didn't, expect it to blow up this big, the game in general. So they probably
they didn't. I
they
mean,
probably weren't ready for somebody to DDoS attack it, because they thought to be this little peeny little game or something like that for a while.
And the other thing that I'm interested to see is how how they're going to evolve this game, and I think that's what we're going to talk about in the next story.
Yeah. So in a related article, developers create Pokemon demo for Microsoft HoloLens. An article from PC Mag. If only we had Microsoft HoloLens, as it would allow us to catch Pokemon just by targeting little creatures and pinching our fingers instead of flicking Pokeballs after endless Pokeball in Niantic's latest labs, or Niantic Labs' latest mobile game. At least that's how catching creatures and augmented reality interface works so far. A group of developers recently created an iteration of Pokemon Go, mainly the Pokemon catching part, that's fully usable inside of Microsoft's HoloLens AR device. Strap the headset on, fire up the app, and you'll see various Pokemon standing around the real-world location where you are using the HoloLens. For now, Pokemon are randomly generated with a mapped environment. We're focusing on how to use different gestures for specific interactions, for example, like operating your inventory or activating your map and zooming and tilting your map as well. The thing is, there's a huge amount of possibilities that are unexplored, which work for games like these. More challenging thing is to how to access the Google Maps API and enabling it within a running app. I'm sure that the upcoming years will have more and more people developing for this hardware, and more things will be standard use tools and apps. End quote. One of the developers, whose name was David Robustelli, told Upload VR. So interesting thing. I had a second article I found where they were basically talking that Pokemon, right now it technically still is AR, still augmented reality, even using the app in some sense. And there's always been this debate whether AR or VR is kind of gonna be the king. It's kind of the Blu-ray versus versus HD talk. What's the next great technology? And they're all saying that AR is going to be probably more prevalent in our everyday lives than VR would be, and that Pokemon Go was just kind of the first thing that kind of proved it. Now they're saying, hey, we can take it one step further and actually have it fully immersed AR and not just looking through a 4-inch screen on your phone. So really interesting that they would start developing for this. I know HoloLens, we've seen things like Minecraft and things like that, but this is the first kind of jump on the bandwagon quick and develop something for a current application that's still hot. So kind of interesting.
A couple of years ago, they tried to push augmented reality AR. In its infancy. I remember downloading apps several years ago onto a little Android phone that you basically lifted up, and it would show you all the buildings around, and it was targeted at tourists that walked into a new city. And we all looked at it and we said, well, nobody's going to be walking around holding the phone in front of them to figure out where the next train station is. I really like that they're using HoloLens, but I, the, to me the biggest thing with the HoloLens is you can't see in front of it, so you're strictly relying on the AR, and you're fairly limited as far as mobility
Mobility.
goes.
Yeah.
I can totally see somebody taking this and putting it on on Google Glass. Move it to Google Glass, and now you got it, right over your forehead, and it's right in front of your eyes. The AR's on it, and you can actually keep moving. So I
Right.
can totally see this going that route, but this game certainly opened up the floodgates for all the other technologies. There was VR's been there, Google Glass was there, augmented reality was there, but it was all siloed. And now Pokemon Go comes in and it goes, hey, we can take all these little pieces and we can kind of put everything together and come up with a final product that you can actually use. And it's to a lot of people, it's a game that they're used to that's in a new format. But then there's also this unwritten hidden aspect of it. It's fitness, and you can tie it to, oh, you want your kids to go outside, you want them to take you want to take another reason to take the dog for a walk, whatever it is. And so there's so many possibilities that you can tie into this.
And I think you kind of hit it on the head there. Is what they did with Pokemon Go is, I think, instead of trying to make the killer app or the perfect demo of AR or something like that, or like you said, the fitness portion, they kind of just put a game together and released it. I mean, it looking from the outside in, it looks crappy. It's a really crappily graphics and design game,
Right.
other than the augmented reality portion of it. And it's had its bugs, from the Google issues to a whole bunch of other things, but they just kind of put it out there. And I think maybe that's why it's also been popular as well, as they put it out there instead of waiting till it's refined and perfect, and a year
Right.
down the
They
line when this fad is kind of blown over. So I think that's probably part of where the where people are really interested in it as well. So we'll just have to see what I'm a big believer that AR is going to be bigger than VR. I just think that being in a world and all the things that come along with it, with getting sick and nausea and stuff like that, that it's just not worth it. VR
Right.
to me isn't worth it. Where AR, like you said, going back, I can't think what was the app called. Was it Google Cardboard back then, or what was it called?
No, it wasn't Google Cardboard.
I
I
remember
can't
the
for the
app you
life of
talked
me.
about. Yeah, if you're
Yeah.
walking down New York City, you'd hold it up down the street and
Right.
it would show you, pizza place here or McDonald's here, and it'd be like a little logo floating in the air above the store. And yeah, it was
Yeah.
it was really really cool. So I think that was more stuff like that. That's um, maybe we're just conditioned to it now, where we've seen AR and stuff, that people can get how to do it. Where back then it was kind of like, what are we going to use this for? Kind of like you said, instead of actually, people proving a point with it first. So maybe this stuff will be more widely adopted now that we kind of, it's mainstream instead of being just kind of a geeky trend.
Yeah, and then I'm doing a quick search, and I want to say it's called Spyglass, but for whatever reason that comes to mind, I know Spyglass is an AR software, but I don't remember if it was actually that. But uh, I mean, Google Street View at one point when they released Street View, that was going to be part of the Google Glass um,
Google
add-on.
goggles.
Google that yes, that's what it was. Um, but AR was supposed to be part of the Google Glass, uh, evolution path essentially. But then with the hardware being so expensive and whatnot, it never really worked its way through. But this definitely there's definitely promise in this one, but we'll see where it goes. I'm interested to find out, but then uh, it's another reason for me to get an AR headset, I guess.
Spend money,
Spend money, another reason
which
to
is a
spend money.
which is a great transition into our discussion topic.
Absolutely. So how much money did you spend
Yeah, we talked
recently?
about before the show. Me and my wife decided to spend about $250 on Amazon's Prime Day this last week, and we talked about it. We didn't really we kind of planned it out. Normally, this stuff kind of catches me off guard, but I knew it was coming a couple days in advance, and we ended up.
Well, they dropped enough hints.
Yeah. This is the first year they really pushed for it. I mean, it's always kind of
Yes,
been like a
and it
day of
worked.
kind of like, hey, it's Prime Day, and it worked. Yeah. So we bought things that we needed. It wasn't impulse buys. I mean, technically it's impulse buys anytime you're on Prime, but I mean, it's still it was stuff that we needed. So it wasn't like we spent a ton, and we saved probably. I mean, half probably would have cost us $500 in airtime to buy it. So it was a good deal. But basically, what we're talking about is, if anybody doesn't know, is Amazon Prime Day was back on the 12th of July. This is, I believe, the second or third year that they've done an iteration of this, and definitely the most fruitful for them. It's basically Amazon's Black Friday in the middle in the middle of July in this case, on a Tuesday, which is a random day to do it. But um, we were reading through the article and talking before the show, and the numbers were just absolutely ridiculous. They're talking about 90,000 TVs, 200,000 headphones, 230 or excuse me 23,000 Roombas. And the interesting one we talked about was 215,000 basically crock pots, 7-in-1 multifunction pressure cookers. And my wife actually wanted one of these, but she couldn't get it because it sold out. So 215,000 in like 4 or 5 minutes. It was absolutely ridiculous. So really interesting results this time, and I think that they're definitely going to do it next year.
Amazon, I think they have a fantastic business model. Whoever came up with the Amazon Prime format, I'm sure they're millionaires and 10 times over. I mean, you pay into this exclusive club. They make you feel like you're special. Now, if you look at it, you can get the same product without Prime that's a little bit cheaper, but you got to wait 5 days to get the thing. This they ship it out in 2 days, and then it's like anytime if you have Amazon Prime, and I know you do and I have Amazon Prime, anytime you want something, the first thing you're going to do is check Amazon Prime. I would rather pay a couple of extra dollars if I can have it here
Exactly.
sooner. And they've capitalized that over and over and over, and they've got a fantastic business model. And for them to, come out and say, "Hey, we're gonna have this random Tuesday in July. We're gonna call it Amazon Prime Day, and then we're gonna just slash prices." And the servers went down because there's a tweet from Amazon that says, and this is at 7:40 a.m. And what time did they start at 6 a.m. Right?
6 or 5 a.m. depending on what coast. Yeah, I think it was
Um,
5 in the east.
so this tweet went out at 7:40 a.m. It says some customers are reporting difficulty with checkout. We're looking to resolve this issue quickly. So hour and a half into the sale, the servers are already down, and so it's just the sheer amount of planning that went into it, and the marketing behind it, and the ROIs. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
Hats
it's
off to them.
exactly. And you talked about it's a different model, but it's really not different. It's the Costco, Sam's Club
Yes, it is
model,
very
but
different.
on an online purchase. And
Yep.
the thing that really twisted it, we've always been troubles. I mean, back to when eBay started, was shipping. I mean, people would go, "Oh, this thing's only a penny, but hey, you got to pay us $20 in shipping." You know what I mean?
Right.
Shipping's always been the Achilles heel of online purchases, and that they've kind of squashed that, where you don't have to worry about it. Just pay us $100 beginning of the year. don't worry about shipping. We'll handle everything from there out. And it's a genius model. And then, you know, even getting next day shipping. I know there was something, we had a trip back in June. My wife needed something. We were leaving on a Wednesday and this is Monday night. And we're like, crap, you know, we can't get this anywhere in town. What are we going to do? And she literally went on Amazon, found it. It was reasonable price, what it is anywhere else. And for an extra like $3 or $4, she got next day shipping and had it at our door Wednesday afternoon, and we left Wednesday night. So you know, there's no other way that we could have done that for without paying, you know, $20-$30 for expedited shipping. So even their past their 2 day shipping, it's still a really interesting endeavor to get into. And like you said, the whoever came up with it, you know, at first they're like, okay, we're just gonna, you know, eat shipping costs. You gotta be kidding me. But I think it's definitely paid over and over dividends for them. So kudos to that individual or that brain trust that came up with the idea.
And then it's amazing to me, like you said, the next day shipping. So you order something that is 800, 900, maybe 1,000 miles away from you, and then in 6 hours, it's 8 hours, it's at your door. And it's like, wow, how really?
I think
That's
what's happened with that though too is they've developed more centers. You know, up here in
yes,
Minnesota, we're at
yep.
everything used to come out of Kansas City or
Now we have one in
Memphis
St.
or
Paul
something.
or
Yeah, and I've seen
Shakopee.
in
Yep,
Shakopee, yep. And then I've had stuff come out of Wisconsin lately for us. You know, even Prime stuff I've ordered is showing up. You know, I've ordered on a Sunday and I'll get it on like a Monday afternoon. You know, and it's like, and that's just regular 2 day shipping because it comes somewhere out of Wisconsin. So I
right.
think I think you know, let alone like you said, where they used to like I don't know if they airship or how they do it, but now they're pretty much putting up centers everywhere. So you know, instead of this 800,000 miles away, within you know a day's drive, basically, you know, 300-500 miles away, there's always a or not even less than that, probably 250 miles away, unless there's a distribution center, unless you live in you know Timbuktu, Montana. But it's really interesting to see how they've kind of I don't at this point in time, it's really hard for somebody to come in and do the same thing just because of all the groundwork they've had to lay into doing this. You
You know,
know,
it's just
it's
the magnitude of the operation that they have, that they've grown it into, and then for somebody to come in and take something like that over, like you said, it's just gonna be monstrous. Yeah.
but I like it,
You know,
and
and the
my
other thing I was just thinking,
pocketbook doesn't.
as I said, I lost my train of thought, but I came back. But I don't think they ever came out and publicly announced this. But I think Amazon may have indirectly had a lot to do with saving USPS, so to speak. I know at one
Mhm.
point in time they were struggling. You know, everybody's going to use UPS and FedEx, and then I remember initially Amazon Prime used to be UPS. You ordered something, it showed
Exclusively
up UPS, but now it's actually USPS that
FedEx very
delivers.
rarely.
Yes, and then it's USPS for next day ship for 2 day Prime shipping, and they do a fantastic job. They stick to the timelines. If you order something next day, then of course it still shows up UPS or rarely FedEx. But
Correct me if I'm wrong though. Doesn't UPS do the back end, and then the USPS does
yes,
the
I think
last
it's the
mile?
last, yeah, the
Yeah,
last mile, last leg, whatever you want to call it. I think yeah, UPS still delivers to the local post office, and then the post office will do the final delivery. Yes, yeah.
but no, I
So
agree. It's that was a big thing. Yeah, the post office was struggling there for a while with you know losing all pretty much all package freight at that point in time, and now they've kind of gave them a little jump booster shot that they needed to get rolling again. So kudos to them to look out for the small guy in government
right.
government entities.
And you know they've USPS, we're digressing, but they've improved. I know you and I we've talked about how they needed to improve their tracking system, because you pay for tracking with USPS, it doesn't work, it's not
Updates
effective.
after you get it.
Yes, 2 days afterwards, like, oh, it got delivered. Well, yes, I already know that. But now it's actually, I'm sure Amazon probably had their requirements too. It's like, sure, we'll let you do it, but boom, boom, boom. These are our requirements. You need to upgrade this, because you need to stick to our standards. And I know their systems are pretty up to date now. So, but yeah, like you said, kudos to Amazon for you killed two birds with one stone. But yeah, we were digressing. 32 minutes into it. Thank you very much. That's our show for today. I got to cue up the music, the outro here. Um, Thank you again for listening, if you and watching. If you like our show, subscribe. It's right down there. You can also find the audio version of our show on iTunes. If you have a question, comment, just want to say hi, maybe even join a live taping, hit us up on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is at Wi-Fi Optional, or you can always email us info@wifioptional.com. Thank you to Purple Planet for providing the music. Check them out at purple-planet.com. And let me get the music to fade out here. On behalf of everyone here at the Wi-Fi Optional Studios, which includes myself and Mr. Jason Wadicott, thank you again for listening. We'll see you next week.
Have a good week.